So welcome, everyone. My name is Mimi Turchinets. I'm the president of the board of the Southwest Boston CDC. And I just wanted to welcome friends, neighbors, Mayor Walsh, funders and partners. Thank you all so much for being here as we celebrate the completion of this mixed income, affordable housing development, the residents at Fairmount Station. Thank you, everybody who made it happen. I know that we're running late, and so I was going to read the funding partners and project development team. I'm not going to do that. So everybody has a program. Everybody has a program. You can read it for yourself. I'm going to say a few things, and then I'll just turn it over to the mayor. So this has been an incredibly long process, and the completion of these 27 homes for our new neighbors is cause for celebration. We couldn't have made it to the finish line without the support of Mayor Walsh. Thank you, Mayor Walsh. And the former mayor, Mayor Menino, who really helped us along the way. Sheila Dillon and DND, thank you for being there from the beginning. Matt Thal and his incredible smirk. We could never have done this without Matt Thal. Our former executive director, I think she's here, Erica Schwartz, she's somewhere. And Dave Tregorth and all the people who just really came together to make this thing and getting it over the finish line. This is the first affordable housing development built in Hyde Park in over 2 decades. We were trying to figure out when the last one was. We're not sure. Maybe it was Fairmount up on the hill. We're not sure. So somebody can research that and we can figure it out. But this building is such a beautiful place, as people have seen. It's just gorgeous. I know most of us want to move in today. And this community, this new mixed income community, was always the dream of the CDC. The need here is so great, and we relentlessly pursued this project through many setbacks. It took us about 20 years to build this thing. This development has 27 units. They're all affordable and for a variety of residents with different incomes, families and individuals who make between $21,000 and $58,000 a year will be able to live here, so the units are affordable for the majority of the residents in Hyde Park. When we began to market these units, we received so many applicants. In the end, there were 2,700 applicants for 27 units. So check out that percentage. The need for housing that people can afford, that's beautiful and kid-friendly, is enormous, and we all know that. And we're so pleased to be here, to be sharing this special day with you and the ribbon cutting. And I did want to recognize a couple of people before we move to the mayor. Thank you, Councilor Tim McCarthy, for being supportive. Senator Michael Rush, thank you for everything. We don't have Maloney Properties on the speakers list, but Diana Kelly and Maloney Properties, we could have never done this without them. YMCA is here, Hyde Park Board of Trade, Blue Hills Bank, Main Streets. We're just so proud of our neighborhood and everybody coming together to support this development, and we're just so excited to move on to the next one. So I just want to say a couple of things about Mayor Walsh. I know he doesn't need an introduction, but I'll make a little one. So Mayor Walsh is a lifelong champion of working people and a proud product of the city of Boston. He's the mayor's 54th mayor. His commitment has always been to address income inequality. He started an Office of Financial Empowerment. He's the founding vice chair of the Cities of Opportunity. It's not here. The Cities of Opportunity, which is part of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Born and raised in Dorchester, he's just really been a stalwart supporting low-income families and affordable housing. He's living in Dorchester, and so, you know, welcome to the neighborhood. We always love to have you. Our mayor, Mayor Walsh.
Thanks, Mimi. And I moved closer to Hyde Park. I'm closer. I moved down to Lower Mill, so I'm a step away from Hyde Park. Jumped through Mattapan and here. I want to thank everyone that's here today. The projects like this don't happen. They're not easy to produce. They're difficult to produce. Sometimes, as Mimi said, it took over 20 years, and that's something we have to work on. We can't have affordable housing projects taking 20 years because we lose a whole generation of young people. So, to all the partners, the state, the CDC, the people behind me, the foundations, the funders, the management companies, all of the partners that it takes to build this project here, thank you very much. I also want to thank Tim McCarthy, who, through our budget process, made sure that there's money available in there for housing projects like this, where we put over almost $2 million in this project here. And I want to thank Timmy for working through that process and understanding the importance of funding those programs. And I want to thank Mike Rush, who was part of the Senate passing the largest housing bond bill in the history of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at the State House. I want to thank them for what they do, understand the importance of housing, not just here in Hyde Park, but also throughout the city of Boston, throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we need to have more of that collaboration as well with our other elected officials to make sure that we work that way to build more housing. I want to thank Sheila Dillon's been thanked, but really Sheila Dillon is our quarterback on housing. And you know, I say it a lot when I go to events. There's probably no better person, housing advocate in the country than Sheila Dillon, and she cares about what goes on. And sometimes it's tough to read those stories in the paper or hearings when people criticize, what are you doing about gentrification? What are you doing about housing? And what I tell people is take a look at what we're doing. I mean, look at what we're doing before criticism comes, because we're doing a lot in Boston. And we're going to do more in Boston. And this isn't just a Boston issue. This is a regional housing issue. We need the rest of the state to step up and help us with this. We need a partner in the federal government that we don't have today. Something that's frustrating. I was asked yesterday by a reporter about, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing about gentrification? What are you doing about this? We're doing things, but we need to get more players at the table. And it can't just be Boston. And it can't just be, it has to be beyond that. So, again, Sheila, thank you very much for your great work and your team. And I want to give a shout out to Father Ron Coyne, who's here with us. Thank you, Father Coyne, who Father Coyne hears it himself in church, and he sees it. He sees families struggling, and he's been in enough parishes in Boston to see his time there, to watch the change of those parishes, watching families being basically displaced or moved out. They move out of the city because they can't afford it. He's seen it. He's seen that. And so we just got to continue to work forward. We have high goals for the city of Boston. We are certainly growing and thriving in the city. But we want the city to grow and thrive for everyone that lives here and everyone that wants to stay in our city. We need to build housing, and we need to make sure that the housing is accessible for a wide range of incomes, and that is something that's important, and that takes partnerships. It takes innovation. It takes a lot of hard work to sit down and talk about it. It shouldn't take 20 years. This development embodies those qualities, though. It's why this is the model that we can achieve if we continue to work together. We want inclusive growth. We want mixed income, and that's what this is about. We want development without displacement. This is affordable. Every single unit has limited to incomes at 70% or less of the median area. We want it to be environmentally friendly and reduce traffic. This is a trans-oriented development, and I've had conversation with Timmy about getting the businesses, more people into the businesses. The way you get more people into the businesses is by building housing, so people that live in the neighborhoods will walk to the shops and eat in the restaurants. You can't have a thriving business district if you don't have people in that thriving business district. And so it is so important for us. Nearly 20% of these units, and out of the 27, are 3-bedroom units. There's play space for children, as you saw when you walked in the front door. There was a lot of concern when this project was being built. You know, the train station's out front, kids are going to be playing out there. Well, you simply solved that problem by putting the play station behind the building and not in front of the building. And that got resolved. So there's no trains out there that I saw when I came in today. So there's an opportunity for us to do this. But we want to enhance neighborhoods. And I'll end with just talking a little bit about, there's been a lot of proposals in this neighborhood for housing. And there's been a lot of mixed reaction on those projects and should they be accepted or not accepted. And what we're simply asking people for is to have a conversation and a dialogue. When this building was being proposed, you know, people said to me, oh, it's the wrong place, it doesn't look good. And as I watched this building go up, and now, as Timmy said, me and Timmy were talking a minute ago, as it went through design review, and as the plans on the outside changed, and a little bit of the facade changed, and the colors changed, and the scheme changed, it fits right in. It fits right into a neighborhood. So I'm just asking, and I know everyone in this room here today is probably pretty much a housing advocate and for all the different proposals that are being proposed. But before you say no, let's have that conversation. Let's try and create opportunities to build more housing. It is about building housing. I read somebody said yesterday we should have a moratorium on construction. If we have a moratorium on construction, what's going to happen there is that we will build no new housing. And the housing stock that we have on the market, the price of it will go up. People will be pushed out of the city of Boston. And we won't be able to, gentrification, we won't even think about gentrification because it's going to happen so quickly. We need to continue to move forward and think about how do we move forward and how do we think about building a community, a strong community, and making sure. 50 years ago, these neighborhoods had 10 and 12 kids and family members in each house in the neighborhood. That's where you had the population. Today, we don't have those families. We have 2 and 3 and 4 families, people living in the homes. So we don't have the same amount of people. So in order to support a thriving, healthy business community and neighborhood, we need to bring people into those neighborhoods. You can just simply look to our sports organizations and our sports groups. We see that Little Leagues and Pop Warners and football organizations and basketball and all those, the kids aren't there anymore. We're seeing these organizations merging with other organizations. In Dorchester, we used to have Cedar Grove and Savin Little League. We had enough kids to support both. Today, we have one, Dorchester Little League. It is about creating opportunities for people and moving forward. This kind of work that we're talking about here, we can certainly drive and up and down the Fairmount line throughout our transit corridors. We built the trains in the Fairmount line to bring people into neighborhoods and bring opportunity into neighborhoods. We didn't build the trains in these neighborhoods to say there's a stop in the neighborhood. We brought it to bring economic opportunity, economic prosperity, and to finally deal with income inequality. That's why those lines are there, and that's why we need to continue to move forward here. So I just want to end. Mimi's over here. I took all the time that was earlier, but I am excited about this project because this is one of the first projects that I support as mayor. And it was controversial, and it was in a neighborhood that supported me overwhelmingly for mayor. And I looked at the idea and I said, okay, what do we do here? And I felt in my heart the right thing to do was to create more housing in the neighborhood. And I took that route. And today, I don't think there's anyone that drives by here and says, God, that shouldn't have been built. Look at what it looks like. Because what was here before didn't look like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. The next person I wanted to bring up is Janelle Chan. Janelle Chan is Massachusetts' new housing chief. She's the new Commonwealth's Undersecretary for Housing and Community Development. And for people who are in the field, right, she's got Crystal's old job. And so she, I'm not going to do more than that. I think that we just need to move forward. So if you want to introduce yourself to the community here, we want to thank you for being here, representing the Baker administration. Janelle.
Thank you, Mimi. Oh, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am so excited to be here on such an important milestone for this project. I do understand it's been a long time coming, and as a former executive director of a CDC, I know the persistence. I know the hard work and the heartache and also the roller coaster rides that the community has to go through. And this is really a testament of that persistence, of that resilience to making your neighborhoods and your communities a better place for everybody. And so I applaud you for sticking in there. So this project came to my attention when I was the chief of real estate for the MBTA. The first thing I did when I came here was walk along our right-of-way, right? And looked at the rearrangement of the parking spaces and whatnot and how it aligns with everything. And that's the unsexy stuff, but that's the unsexy stuff that makes projects work. And we had to talk to my guys who were doing snow removals at the time, the guys who are doing cleaning of the right-of-way, and to help them convince them, hey, listen, this rearrangement, this might make your life a little bit uncomfortable for a little bit of time, but this is the right thing for us to do. Hildy Fairback, our council at that moment, we were all behind this. I mean, it might have been controversial, this project, but it made so much sense. It makes so much sense. This is a smart project. It is right next to transit. And as someone who hasn't owned a car for maybe 12, 13 years, I know how important it is to be near transit. Because what that means is I'm close to getting to my friends, my family, my job, my livelihood. And that's what the folks who are going to be living here will be getting. And that's so important for our state of equity, trying to bring that forward. We talk about gentrification oftentimes, but this project is part of that solution. And as part of the Baker-Polito administration, we're trying to do our best. We need the help of all municipalities to do their part to help us create more housing for everyone, so Massachusetts stays a place that is welcoming for everybody. So thank you, Senator Rush, for helping us pass the largest bond bill, $1.8 billion for housing. Right? We also passed $1.1 billion for capital improvements and capital dollars for the next 5 years. That's 18% increase from previous 5 years. That's a huge additional resource for projects such as these transformative projects. We set an ambitious goal. We set a goal, 135,000 by 2025. But yet, that is really, based on what we've been producing in the last 3 years. Maybe 5 years ago, a decade ago, we were producing 30,000 units. 30,000 units. And now we're producing half of that. We need to make sure that we are producing enough units to allow our economy to continue to prosper, right? Housing is key to the economic health of our Commonwealth. And Mayor, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the leadership of the Metro Mayors Coalition, who also looked at best practices and put forward their goals in terms of what regionally we can be doing here. Housing Choice is the initiative that we've put forward. This is important in terms of both we're providing grants to local municipalities to reward them, to incentivize them, to encourage them to continue doing the right things. We have 69 designated communities there with $5 million funded. We also provide technical assistance. So did you know that 70% of our municipalities and communities actually have a declining school enrollment? So oftentimes I go to a lot of town meetings and folks, the bad word is kids, right? That shouldn't be the case, right? So the perception, right, and folks' aspirations and also goals in their communities sometimes don't align. And Housing Choice is providing that data, that TA, that the knowledge of best practice to help each communities reach their goals and aspirations based on the future that they are envisioning for themselves. And that needs to include housing production for all. So with that, I just want to congratulate Southwest Boston CDC, Dave Tregorf, and his work on this project. And we look forward to having 27 new families populate and be a part of this community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The next speaker is Paul Grogan, who is the president and CEO of the Boston Foundation. Paul has been there. Probably everybody in the room knows how much the Boston Foundation has done for the community and for the city, and just really is there all the time. They've been funding the CDC since the get-go, so they've been on board with us for almost 20 years. They have been just remarkable. We are so pleased to welcome Paul Grogan to the neighborhood, and I'm not going to say more because he can speak. And Paul, only 3 minutes, please.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Well, congratulations to everyone who's associated with this. There have been, offer our congratulations as well. There have been numerous references to how difficult this was. The way we always thought of it at the Boston Foundation was, if we don't do this project, what exactly will we do? What will we be looking for that more completely fulfills the priorities that everyone knows we should have at this point? So there was a lot riding on this, a lot more than 27 units of housing. Mayor, I really want to congratulate you for where you came out on this. I know enough about politics to know that to disappoint ardent supporters very early in your term, which you had to do in order to do this, is not a preferred course. But you did it, and the results will be leveraged many, many times over. Because it took so long, it's a very good thing that all these relationships are so durable and productive. Some of you know that way back in the dark ages, I was the Sheila Dillon of the Flynn and White administrations for about 5 years. And we did some great things back then, but the relationships you see in this room were just starting to form, where you, around one table, you'd get the grassroots organizations, philanthropy, the banks, city government, and then state government, the quasi-agencies. And now you all have these habits of working together so productively that you can't even be derailed as something as difficult as this. So I think that is really, really noteworthy, and so a lot more was riding on this than 27 units. Mayor, I want to thank you for making the Fairmount Corridor such a priority. Before you came into office, nobody was talking about the Fairmount Corridor outside of the very involved community itself, and you've elevated it very significantly. This is but one result of the remaking of a part of the city that's going to bring a lot of opportunity to people who have not had it. I also want to thank you, Mayor, for another thing I've been very involved in over the years is the low-income housing tax credit, which LISC, which I headed at the time, helped get passed and has sustained. It is an absolutely vital resource that could have disappeared in the tax bill that was recently passed. And I want to thank Mayor and many of his colleagues for defending as ardently as they did the housing credit and what it's accomplishing, because if we had lost that, boys and girls, I mean, that would have been the game in terms of affordable housing. So the advocacy has to continue. Once again, the foundation, Greater Boston's Community Foundation, is involved, as we should be, in multiple ways, supporting the individual CDCs, supporting the Fairmount Collaborative, funding the transit-oriented development fund that provided part of the financing. And as I mentioned, the National Equity Fund, which I helped found in 1986, provided the equity here. It's just a great example of the possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I did want to recognize a couple more people. Can the Southwest Boston CDC board members raise their hand? All right. Thank you, board members. This is one tenacious board. This board is really incredible. So they have done so much to kind of get this to where we are right now. Also, I wanted to let the people who are behind that glass to let you know you can really come around if you want to be in the room. Alex and Lawrence and Pam, I see a lot of you out there. There's space up here, so don't be shy. I did also want to recognize the staff, the current staff. Pat Alvarez is here somewhere working. Oh, there she is. Pat is our current acting director, and she's doing a bang-up job. She's been with us for 20 years also, and is just an incredible addition to the staff. Also, Alex Nadell is here somewhere in the back, our community organizer. There's also Pam Bender is here from MACDC. I saw her. Thank you, MACDC, for being here. The next speaker is Roger Herzog. Roger is the executive director of CDAC, Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation. He works with CDCs and other nonprofits on new, affordable, and supportive housing development. They have been there since the beginning with us, too. They've been an incredible supporter. We couldn't have done it without CDAC, and thank you so much, Roger.
Thank you, Mimi, and good morning. Congratulations to our nonprofit partner, the Southwest Boston CDC, the board and the staff, to the Tregorth companies, their partner, the development team, Mayor Walsh, Senator Rush, Councilor McCarthy, all of the fellow lenders. We are so pleased to be helping to celebrate this important ribbon-cutting event for the residences at Fairmount Station. As Janelle said, I had the same exact words, a testament to the persistence of the CDC in moving this forward in the Hyde Park neighborhood. I'm really happy because I was born in Hyde Park. Little known fact. I have to clarify, not this Hyde Park neighborhood, 1,000 miles to the west in the great city of Chicago, but it's Hyde Park nonetheless, President Obama's neighborhood. CDAC's involvement, believe it or not, began in 2009. Do you remember 2009? It was not the most propitious time to begin thinking about a new investment. And for a CDC that had never really done a major new housing development, it was a tough road to hoe. Banks were not lending in 2009. There were folks that were telling CDAC, we shouldn't be investing in new projects until we see where this recession is going to go. But we felt like if we don't continue to work on new housing development proposals, what's going to happen in a couple of years when the economy does recover? We're going to have to start from scratch. So our work is to make sure that we do keep a pipeline of new projects coming into the system, because we have public resources available to build these types of projects. In 2009, the project location was in Logan Square. A couple of years later, the location changed to the current site here, a great site, transit-oriented on Knott Street. Over the 9 years of our involvement, CDAC provided early-stage financing of about $1.3 million, including both acquisition and pre-development financing. The acquisition loan was made as part of the Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Acquisition Fund, and you're going to hear from Karen Kelleher about that, but thank you to LISC and your partners on that. This project is a premier example of the role of patient capital in affordable housing development. CDAC understood the importance of this project to the CDC, to the neighborhood, and the city, and we salute our partners for getting the project completed, and we congratulate the soon-to-be new residents of this neighborhood. As the mayor and Janelle have both indicated, we cannot wait to do more housing with the CDC. Given our long-term involvement in the project, we actually had 3 project managers over the length of our involvement. Our current project manager, Madeline Nash, is not available, but I do want to recognize Sarah Barkin, who's CDAC's Director of Housing Development, who's here with me today. So congratulations, and let's keep doing this.
Thank you, CDAC. I also just wanted to recognize a few more people. Chris Racius from the Fairmount Grill has been an incredible supporter. He's the owner of one of the restaurants. Matt Lawler's lurking around in the back. With Robinson and Cole, he's one of our attorneys, also was formerly on the board and is just an incredible supporter and a resident of Rosendale. And Jean Dubois, who is the former executive director of Dorchester Bay. The next speaker is Robin Gallagher. She's the Senior Vice President of Commercial Real Estate of Webster Bank. Webster was one of our key funding partners for this new construction. She joined Webster in 2005 after a dozen years with the Bank of New York. Has played a significant role in assisting us. Also wanted to just recognize Peter Moschbacher from Webster also, who has really been a key leader here. And just want to thank you, and please come on up.
Good morning. Thank you to all the dignitaries and mayor, and to Dave and Dan, and everyone who came out to celebrate the completion of this impactful development. What a really beautiful project. Webster Bank was founded in 1935 in the midst of the Great Depression. Today, Webster is the leading regional bank in the Northeast, led by Chairman and CEO John Ciulla. But while we have grown, Our core values have remained the same, taking personal responsibility for meeting our customer needs, respecting the dignity of every individual, and giving ourselves in the communities we serve. That is why a central fundamental of Webster's community reinvestment model is the creation of more affordable housing in Massachusetts. We believe strongly in individuals and families having access to affordable housing options. And we are particularly proud to have partnered with the Tregorth Group, the South Boston CDC, to help develop these housing units, contributing to the health and vibrancy of the Hyde Park neighborhood. Webster's involvement first began when we provided a $6.7 million construction loan, along with investing equity of $6.6 billion in low-income housing tax credits, with National Equity Fund and LISC as Webster's syndicator partner on the project. We had to be very flexible during the origination and closing process while balancing between representing the interests of our institution and meeting the evolving needs of the project. Because of the incredible team effort from my colleagues, the Tregorth Development Team, Southwest Boston CDC, public and private funders, and the myriad of legal counsel who were all dedicated to affordable housing and making sure this project was successful, we all got the job done. We particularly enjoyed working with our public partners at the state and local levels, without whom this project would never have come to fruition. What an outstanding job by Dave and Dan and Tregorth team and Southwest Development and coordinating the many, many funding sources for this project. I would also like to acknowledge my Webster colleagues who came out today to support the project. We have Deb Trapala. She is the regional president for Webster Bank, Massachusetts. My partner in crime, as we like to call it, Peter Mosbacher, who's Senior Vice President, Community Development. Michael Thurs, who is a Webster Bank construction loan portfolio manager, who made sure everybody was getting paid and the project was proceeding along schedule. And Elaine Ficara in our communications group at Webster Bank. Thank you all for your hard work and teamwork on this project, and we should all feel incredibly proud of what we have accomplished today, and knowing that the beneficiaries, the residents, have a beautiful, safe place to call home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker is Karen Kelleher. Karen is the new executive director of LISC Boston. Karen brings more than 20 years of experience driving housing affordability and building strong, inclusive communities. She brings deep expertise in housing finance and development policy. Prior to coming on board as the LISC ED, she was deputy director of the Mass Housing Finance Agency. LISC has been a stalwart in supporting the CDC since day one, really. We also want to recognize Bob Van Meter. I don't think he's here. He was the Boston LISC director, who really was just incredible in terms of sustaining and helping the CDC move forward. Thank you so much, Karen. We couldn't have done it without LISC, and thank you for being here with us.
Good morning, everyone. I love going close to the end of these things because I get to make a joke about how boring it is to see funders get up and congratulate each other. This case is particularly fun because, of course, everything I was going to say has already been said by somebody, including like the money we put in. We partnered with somebody or other for every piece of it. But I'm new to my job, as Mimi said, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I want to actually thank you guys for this day because I've gotten so much inspiration from being here today for so many reasons. The first and not least of which is I got to ride the Fairmount line out here. Wait for it, with Paul Grogan from the Boston Foundation and Sony Gupta, who leads their housing work so adequately. So I got a lot of inspiration on the way, including, by the way, these words of wisdom from Paul. If you're going to speak publicly, do a good job. No pressure. So I did want to mention the Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Fund because it is a very important part of making a development like this happen and having it connect people to jobs and community the way that so many who preceded me talked about. This is an inspiration for me as I think about how we can deploy that fund further. This is patient money, as Roger said. We partnered with CDEC on it. Boston Foundation generously capitalized that fund with some other partners. The state of Massachusetts, thank you, Janelle, funded $1 million to also create Top Blast for that. So the partnership that goes into creating the financing and the solutions for these projects is so complex, but the ecosystem that Paul talked about that is working so well is awe-inspiring, and I take some of that back with me as I try to think about how I can build on the legacy of LISC's experience nationally. And by the way, Paul led LISC for 13 years and really grew it into the national powerhouse that it is today. So that was a particular opportunity for me to talk with him about that. But I want to thank Southwest Boston for the inspiration of your persistence in bringing this deal here, supporting a CDC like Southwest Boston and all of the CDCs along the Fairmount corridor. I see several, and I see Jean Dubois smiling big right there, but the vision to invest in the Fairmount corridor, the transit advocacy that happened to bring the stops to the communities along the corridor is very, very inspiring. And the vision that went into that, the leadership from the Boston Foundation, from the mayor's office, from Sheila Dillon, and so many of you in the room who I undoubtedly will get myself in trouble because I've named individuals and I shouldn't. So thank you for the inspiration, and I just want to ask all of you to take that inspiration and keep up the good work, because thousands of people applied for these units. Thank you.
So we're coming to the end, so we just got one more speaker. So we could not, as everybody I think in the room knows, we could never have done this without Dave Tregorth and Tregorth Companies. They are just such a dedicated team of real estate professionals. They've been so great to work with. They're fun, they're smart, they're Boston-based. Dave and his team were our lead development partner. Dave oversees all the work of Tregorth Companies with a special emphasis on acquisition property opportunities, permitting, construction. Since Tregorth Companies began, he's directly overseen a wide variety of complex mixed income and mixed-use development projects in the Boston metro area. And that's, as people have heard, this was a really complex, incredibly long-term, great, amazing development, and he's just been there with us. He's a leader, he's a friend, he's an ally, and he's a tenacious partner. I also just wanted to say thank you to Dan Hubbard, who's really been there with us, one of the Tregorth partners, Tanya, Hanel, and then also Dan O'Shea. Really such a great, tenacious, small little group of folk who have done so much. So thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Mimi. I just want to say two things. I want to say one thank you to all of you. This is Tregorth Company's first low-income housing tax credit deal as our own, and Southwest Boston's as well. So believing in a team that was really young. I had to look up when the White administration was, and I was born at the end. And so it's nice to be welcomed into the family. It's nice to be welcomed into the family of these relationships that are really strong, and to learn from many of you. So thank you to you all for believing in us. It means a tremendous amount. And the last thing I just want to leave you with is a vision. As you're sitting down for your holidays, 27 families are going to have their first holidays in this beautiful building. And so as you're doing that with your family, think about these families. Come back and see us. Visit them. It's just an amazing thing. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And so if people want to see the units, I know that folks have wandered around, but we are doing tours. And so once again, I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank Mayor Walsh, all the people that I forgot. I could have named every single person in this room who's just played such a major role in making this happen. But we're on to the next one, right? This was our first dream. We're going to build another affordable housing development for folks in need. We've just gotten started, right? So I said we'll get out of the cold, but we're not in the cold, thank God for the planners. So let's do a tour of the building, have coffee, have some more snacks from Fornex. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and let's go forward and build more. Thank you. 2, 3.
There we go.